documents, and 10 facts you might not know about Muslims' thirst for knowledge and the quest for information and inventions in the golden age of Muslim civilization. That's the 7th to the 17th centuries. Did you know that the first schools were established in mosques as early as 622 CE? That's the Common Era. By the late 9th century, almost every mosque had an elementary school for boys and girls. By the 15th century, the Ottomans revolutionized schools by setting up a kind of learning center called a kulliye, a term derived from the Arabic word kul, or all. Each complex had a mosque, a school, a hospital, and a dining area. A kulliye is often managed by a charitable foundation and is based on the earliest form of the mosque, which was not only used as a house of praying, but also as a place for eating, teaching, and as a hostel for the poor. Did you know that Europe was buzzing with schools under Muslim civilization? In History of the Moorish Empire in Europe, the writer S.P. Scott, an American scholar who wrote about history and culture and so on in Europe during the Middle Ages, he narrates what Ibn Hawqal, a writer, traveller and geographer, describes in Palermo in Italy in the late 10th century. The city of Palermo had around 300 mosques that also served as schools. There was also the University of Belém in Palermo, which rivaled top universities in Spain at the time and attracted scholars, including Ibn Hamdis, a Sicilian Arab poet, whose works are preserved at the Vatican Library in Rome and the Asiatic Museum in St. Petersburg. Education in Muslim civilization was free, and some students were provided with books, pocket money, and a place to live. There was no such thing as struggling with student loans. In fact, funds called Awqaf were set up to build schools and to try to pay for things like teachers' salaries and meals for students. As an example, at the Mustansiriya, a university in Iraq founded in 1234 CE by Caliph al-Mustansir, pens and paper were supplied, and so were lamps and provisions of oil. The students also received medical care and financial aid in addition to free tuition. Did you know that women were leaders of university education? Fatima Al-Fihri is an Arab Muslim woman who founded the oldest existing educational institution in the world, the University of Al-Qarawiyyin in Fez in Morocco in 859 CE, according to UNESCO and the Guinness World Records. You can still study at this university today. This quest for advanced education among Muslim scholars led to the spread of universities, sparking a revival of learning throughout Europe. Women were prominent figures of intellect. Lubna of Cordoba was an Andalusian intellectual and a mathematician in the second half of the 10th century. She was famous for her knowledge of grammar and the quality of her poetry. Her skills in writing, grammar, poetry, mathematics, and other sciences were unparalleled. She was also known for her love of books, and she put together a library formed of over 500,000 books. Mariam Astrolabi was a 10th century female astronomer from Syria who was skilled in making astrolabes, astronomical and navigation instruments for finding directions. Astrolabes are considered the most important astronomical observational device before the invention of the telescope. Observations made with astrolabes helped lead to the birth of modern astronomy. Muslims were the first to use instruments to study the heavens, and in fact the astronomical charts that predict the movement of the moon, sun and planets were written in the 9th century by Al-Zaghali, known in Europe as Al-Zakhel. In the same century, Abbas ibn Firnas built a glass planetarium in his house which showed images of stars and planets. Observatories with impressive arrays of instruments were set up for astronomers in Baghdad, Persia, now Iran, Samarkand, now Uzbekistan, and Istanbul. Muslims were the first to explain vision. Ibn al-Haytham, a pioneering scientific thinker born in Iraq in 965 CE, made important contributions to the understanding of vision, optics and light, and the use of scientific experiments. Ibn al-Haytham was referred to as the father of modern optics, his most influential work being Kitab al-Manazir, or the Book of Optics, written during 1011 to 1021. Ibn al-Haytham was the first to explain the laws of reflection. Experimenting with a pinhole camera, he noticed that light comes through a tiny hole and projects an image of the outside world onto the opposite wall of his darkroom. This led to the invention of the camera obscura, which was a forerunner to the modern camera we know today. The word algebra stems from the Arabic word al-jabr, meaning restoration of broken parts. It has its roots in the title of a 9th century manuscript written by the mathematician al-Khwarizmi, also known as the father of algebra. Additionally, the word algorithm comes from al-Khwarizmi's name. Al-Khwarizmi's book, Hisab al-Jabr wal-Muqabala, or the Compendious Book on Calculation by Completion and Balancing, is a pioneering piece of work which actually offered practical answers for land distribution, rules on inheritance, and distributing salaries. Al-Khwarizmi helped replace the Roman numerals 1, 2, 3, and 4, which we commonly use throughout Europe, with Arabic numerals, the 1, 2, 3 we use today. Arabic numbers were much easier to use when performing mathematical operations, since it's a base 10 system. Ever tried to multiply using Roman numerals? The Muslim legacy in influencing the progress of medicine and surgery in Europe cannot be ignored. Al-Zarari, also known in the West as Al-Bukassis, was an Andalusian physician who was considered the greatest surgeon of the Middle Ages and has actually been described as the father of surgery. His 30-volume encyclopedia of medical practices, and specifically his surgery chapter, was translated into Latin in the late 12th century and then afterwards into different European languages, including French and English. It became the standard textbook in Europe for the next 500 years. He was the first physician to identify the hereditary nature of haemophilia, and he was also the first doctor to describe an abdominal pregnancy, which is a form of an ectopic pregnancy where the embryo or the fetus is growing and developing outside the womb but in the abdomen. Among his many inventions, Zarari discovered the use of dissolving catgut to stitch wounds, and he also reportedly performed the first ever caesarean operation and created the first pair of forceps. Muslims celebrated diversity in their inventions. Al-Jazari's 800-year-old automatic elephant clock is probably the most famous of clocks from the Muslim civilization. The large clock uses Greek water-raising technology, an Indian elephant, an Egyptian phoenix, Arabian figures, and Chinese dragons to celebrate the diversity of the world. We hope you enjoyed this episode, so let us know what you think in the comments section. Meanwhile, share this with your friends and stay tuned for the next one.